"How do you feel today?" she asked. I shrugged, trying to put my feeling into words. "I don't know. I think good? Maybe a little proud?" She nodded, clearly understanding. "Proud is good," she said. "It means you're growing." At school, the classroom was buzzing again. But today, something felt different. Maybe it was me. I wasn't avoiding my desk. I wasn't hiding behind my notebook. I walked in and smiled at Sophia. "Morning," I said. Her eyes lit up. "Maya, how was your speech yesterday?" she asked. I smiled and shrugged. "Scary, but not as scary as I thought, and everyone was really kind." Mrs. Anderson greeted the class with her usual warmth. "Today," she said, "I want everyone to share a small part of their speech with a partner. Practice makes perfect, or at least, practice makes better." I laughed quietly at that. Better, I thought. Yes, that sounded just right. Sophia and I paired up immediately. "Let's practice again," she said, her voice playful, "but this time, make it fun." I nodded. We started reading our speeches to each other. At first, I stumbled a bit, but Sophia made a funny face every time she forgot a word. I laughed. Then she laughed. The room felt lighter. I realized that English wasn't just about speaking perfectly. It was about trying, making mistakes, and having fun while learning. After practice, we had a short break. I sat by the window, watching the leaves move gently in the morning breeze. I pulled out my notebook and wrote. Every day feels like a challenge. Every word feels heavy. But each time I speak, even a little, it gets lighter. English is not just a language. It's a bridge to connect, to express, to share. And I am learning to cross it. When the bell rang, signaling the start of class again, Mrs. Anderson called everyone to attention. "Maya, would you like to help me with today's lesson?" My stomach flipped. Me? Help with the lesson? My hands felt clammy, but I nodded. "Yes, I can try." She smiled warmly. "Great. Today, we'll focus on expressing feelings in English. Maya, would you share how you felt before your speech yesterday?" I took a deep breath. I was nervous. My hands were shaking. My heart was beating fast. I felt scared, but I tried anyway. I paused. I learned that courage is not about being perfect. It's about trying even when you are scared. Mrs. Anderson nodded. "Beautifully said, Maya. Can everyone repeat that phrase with me? Courage is not about being perfect. It's about trying even when you are scared." The class repeated it together, slowly at first, then more confidently. I felt proud. Not because I had spoken perfectly, but because my words could help others. English suddenly didn't feel like a wall anymore. It felt like a key. Later, during lunch, I sat with Sophia and a few friends. We talked about our favorite books, movies, and hobbies. For the first time, I spoke freely in English without overthinking every word. I love reading stories that teach me something. They help me understand people and life better. One of the boys in my group, Daniel, smiled. "Yeah, I like stories too. They're like small adventures." I nodded. "Exactly. And English is the map to explore those adventures." Sophia giggled at that. "Maya is getting philosophical," she teased. I laughed. Maybe I was, but I liked it. After lunch, it was time for another English activity. Mrs. Anderson asked us to pair up again, this time to act out small dialogues from our speeches. I paired with Sophia again. She whispered, "Ready for round 2? I nodded, taking a deep breath. We practiced. I forgot a word here and there, but I laughed, she laughed, and that laughter so simple, made the words come easier. I realized that English wasn't just a set of rules or grammar lessons. It was alive. It was breathing. It was fun. That afternoon, as the school day ended, I walked home slowly. I didn't rush. The sunlight touched my face, and for a moment, everything seemed still. I thought about yesterday and today. I did it, I whispered to myself. I really did it, and I can do more. At home, Mom asked me about my day. I smiled and told her everything. I spoke more English today than ever before. I wasn't perfect, but I was brave, and it felt good. She nodded and poured me a cup of tea. I'm proud of you, Maya. Keep going, keep learning, keep sharing your heart. That evening, I sat at my desk, my notebook open again. I wrote a new sentence, not for a speech, not for anyone else, just for me. Learning English is learning courage. Every word is a small step. Every sentence is a small victory. I will keep speaking, keep trying, and keep shining. I looked at the tiny golden star on my desk, my lucky star, my reminder that I could face my fears, that I could try, even when scared, that I could grow. And in that moment, I knew something important. This journey was just beginning. My first speech had opened a door. There were many more doors to open, many more words to speak, many more stories to tell. English wasn't just a subject in school anymore. It was a way to share myself, to connect with others, to express thoughts that sometimes felt too big for my small heart. And I was ready to step through that door, one word at a time. The next week felt like a new beginning. I woke up on Monday morning with a strange mix of excitement and nervousness. My first speech had passed, but I knew this week would bring new challenges. English wasn't just a subject anymore. It was becoming a part of my daily life, and I wanted to embrace it fully. At breakfast, Mom asked me about my plans for the day. I told her, I think I'll try to speak more English in class today. Even if I make mistakes, I want to try. She smiled warmly. That's wonderful, Maya. Every word you speak is a step forward. I nodded, feeling a little taller, a little braver as I left for school. When I entered the classroom, the air was buzzing with energy. Students were already chatting, some in English, some in our native language. I noticed Sophia waving at me from across the room. Good morning, Maya. Ready for round 2? She asked with a mischievous grin. I laughed nervously. I think so. I want to try speaking more today. Mrs. Anderson began the lesson by introducing a new activity, story circles. Each student would share a short personal story in English, and our partner would ask questions to encourage more speaking. My heart raced. Sharing a personal story in English? That felt much harder than a prepared speech. But I reminded myself of yesterday. Courage wasn't about being perfect, it was about trying. Sophia and I paired up again. Do you want to go first? She asked. I hesitated, then nodded. I took a deep breath. Okay, I said softly. Yesterday, I practiced my speech at home. I was really nervous. My hands were shaking, my heart was beating fast, but I tried anyway, and it felt good. She nodded and listened carefully. Wow, Maya, that's brave. Can you tell me more about how you felt before you started? I thought for a moment. I felt scared, but I also felt like I was about to do something important, something that mattered. And even though my voice shook, I kept going. And that made me proud. She smiled and she said, I can see why you're proud. That's amazing. Her words made me feel lighter. We continued asking each other questions, practicing not just the speech itself, but how to explain feelings, thoughts, and experiences in English. Every pause, every hesitation became a small learning moment. Later, Mrs. Anderson asked the class to share a few stories aloud. I hesitated, my stomach twisting, but Sophia gave me a thumbs up. I stood up, clutching my notebook like a small shield, and began. Hi, my name is Maya. I want to share a story about learning English. Last week, I had my first speech in English. I was very nervous. My hands were shaking, my voice was shaking, and my heart was beating fast. But I tried. I practiced with my mom and with my friend Sophia, and when I spoke in front of the class, I felt proud. I felt brave, and I realized courage is not about being perfect. Courage is about trying, even when you are afraid. The class was quiet for a moment. Then a few students clapped softly. Mrs. Anderson smiled at me. Beautiful, Maya. Who else wants to share? After class, Sophia and I walked home together. We talked about how much easier it was to speak English when we practiced together. I like these story circles, she said. It's scary, but also fun. I nodded. Yeah, it feels like every word is a small victory, and it helps me remember new words and phrases better. That evening, I sat at my desk and wrote in my notebook. I decided to keep a new habit, a daily English reflection. Every day, I would write about my experiences, thoughts, and feelings in English, even if it was just a sentence or two. It didn't have to be perfect, it just had to be honest. I wrote, "Today, I spoke in English more than ever. I was nervous, but I tried. I feel proud. English is becoming more than a subject. It is a way to share my thoughts and feelings. I will keep learning, keep trying, and keep growing." The next few days at school were full of small challenges and small victories. We had vocabulary games where we had to use new words in sentences. I stumbled at first, forgetting words or mixing tenses, but I laughed, corrected myself, and tried again. Each mistake felt less like a failure and more like a stepping stone. One day, during a group activity, Mrs. Anderson asked us to describe a personal dream in English. My heart raced again. Talking about dreams in English? That felt like baring my soul. But I closed my eyes for a moment, pictured my dream, and spoke. I want to travel the world one day. I want to see new places, meet new people, and learn about different cultures. English will help me do that. It will help me talk to people, understand stories, and share my own story. A few classmates nodded. Sophia whispered, "That's amazing, Maya. I want to do that too." Hearing her words, I realized something important. Speaking English wasn't just about passing exams or giving speeches. It was about connecting with others, sharing dreams, and understanding each other. That week, I also started reading small English stories at home. I began with simple texts, short fables, children's books, and news articles for young learners. Every time I learned a new word, I wrote it in my notebook and practiced using it in sentences. Slowly, my vocabulary grew. Slowly, my confidence grew too. Then came the moment I had been waiting for, the second speech assignment. This time, Mrs. Anderson asked us to prepare a story about a personal experience, anything we wanted to share. I felt a flutter of excitement mixed with nervousness. But unlike the first speech, I had a secret weapon: experience. I had spoken before, I had practiced, I had learned that mistakes were okay. I chose to tell a story about helping my little brother learn to ride his bicycle. I practiced for hours, writing sentences, speaking aloud, and imagining the classroom. Hi, my name is Maya. Today, I want to tell you about the time I helped my little brother ride his bike. He was scared at first, and so was I. I didn't know if I could help him, but we tried together. I held the bike steady, he pedaled slowly, and step by step, he learned to ride. And in the end, we both felt proud. Learning something new is always scary at first, but trying together makes it easier. On the day of the speech, I walked into the classroom with a mix of nerves and excitement. The sound of chairs moving, papers flipping, and students whispering seemed louder than ever. But I took a deep breath and reminded myself, I've done this before. I can do it again. When Mrs. Anderson called my name, I stood up confidently. Hi, my name is Maya. Today, I want to tell you about the time I helped my little brother ride his bicycle. He was scared at first, and so was I. I didn't know if I could help him, but we tried together. I held the bike steady, he pedaled slowly, and step by step, he learned to ride. And in the end, we both felt proud. Learning something new is always scary at first, but trying together makes it easier. I looked up and saw the class smiling. Some students whispered encouragement. Sophia gave me a big thumbs up. And in that moment, I realized I was no longer the girl who trembled in front of the class. I was a girl who could face fear, speak her mind, and share her story. After class, Mrs. Anderson said something that stayed with me. Maya, your courage and honesty are inspiring. Remember, English is not just about words. It's about expressing yourself, connecting with others, and sharing your story. Keep speaking, keep trying, and keep growing. I walked home slowly, the sunlight warm on my face. I thought about everything I had learned that week. New words, new phrases, new courage. I realized that English was more than a language. It was a bridge to friends, to dreams, to the world.
That evening, I wrote in my notebook, I am proud of myself. I was scared, but I tried. English is not perfect words or perfect grammar. English is courage. English is sharing your story. I will keep learning. I will keep speaking. I will keep dreaming. And as I looked at the tiny golden star on my desk, I whispered, this is just the beginning. Many more doors are waiting. Many more stories are waiting. And I am ready to step through, one word at a time. The next few weeks at school became an adventure in English. Each day brought something new. Some challenges, some surprises, but slowly I was learning to love the process. I started to notice little changes in myself. My voice didn't tremble as much. I spoke more freely, not just in class, but with Sophia, Daniel, and even new classmates. English was no longer something I dreaded. It was something I could explore, like a new world waiting to be discovered. One Monday morning, Mrs. Anderson announced a new project. This week, she said, we will work on group presentations. Each group will create a short story, write it in English, and present it to the class. My stomach twisted. Group work? Presenting? Again? I felt a flicker of fear, but this time it was mixed with excitement. I knew I could handle it. Sophia and I teamed up with Daniel and Ava. We brainstormed ideas for a story, laughing as we tossed out wild suggestions. How about a magical library? Ava suggested. Or a talking cat, Daniel added. Sophia giggled. What about a story where a small act of courage changes everything? My heart skipped. I loved that idea. It reminded me of my own journey with English, the courage it took to speak, to share, to try. We spent the afternoon writing our story. I wrote most of the English sentences, but we all contributed. I stumbled over some words, but my friends were patient, helping me find the right phrases. We practiced reading aloud, helping each other with pronunciation. Every time I got a word wrong, I tried again. Every time I paused, I reminded myself, courage is trying even when you're afraid. By the next day, we had a small script ready. The story was about a young girl who found a magical key in a library. With the key, she opened doors to different worlds and helped creatures she met along the way. The story ended with the message that courage, kindness, and friendship can change lives. As we rehearsed, I felt something new, pride in my English. I wasn't perfect, but I was improving, and I could see it. Presentation day arrived. My hands were a little shaky, but the fear was different now. It didn't paralyze me, it pushed me to focus. We walked to the front of the class, script in hand. I took a deep breath. Hi, my name is Maya. Today we want to share a story about courage, friendship, and magic. We told the story together, each of us reading our lines confidently. When it was my turn, I described the magical library. The walls were lined with golden books. Each book whispered secrets. The girl held the key tightly in her hand. She was scared, but she stepped forward. And then, magic happened. I looked up at my classmates. Their eyes were on me, but I didn't feel afraid. I felt alive. I felt proud. When we finished, the applause was loud, genuine. Mrs. Anderson smiled. That was wonderful, Maya, and group work was excellent. You all showed courage and teamwork. After class, Sophia hugged me. She said, "You were amazing. I can't believe how much you've improved." I laughed. Thanks. I think I'm actually starting to enjoy English. Over the next few days, I noticed myself speaking more naturally in class. I answered questions without overthinking, shared my thoughts with friends, and even helped Ava with vocabulary. Every small success gave me confidence. English wasn't just about studying from a textbook anymore. It was about expressing myself, connecting with others, and exploring new ideas. One afternoon, Mrs. Anderson announced another activity: English journals. Each student would write a daily entry in English about their experiences, thoughts, or feelings. My heart leapt. I had been keeping my own notebook at home, but now it was official. Every day I would write in class, sharing my story in English. My first journal entry was simple but heartfelt. Today I felt proud. I spoke more in class than I ever have. I made mistakes, but that is okay. I am learning. I am growing. English is helping me express myself, and every word I speak feels like a step forward. Mrs. Anderson read a few entries aloud, praising students for honesty and effort. Hearing her say, "Maya, your words are inspiring," made my chest swell. I realized that learning English was not just about vocabulary or grammar. It was about finding my voice. That week, we had another challenge, a listening activity with a native speaker. A guest teacher, Mr. Thomas, came to our classroom. He spoke slowly and clearly, telling a story about his travels. At first, I was nervous. Listening to someone speak fast in English felt intimidating, but I concentrated, trying to catch key words and phrases. I wrote down sentences I recognized and practiced repeating them quietly. After the story, Mr. Thomas asked us questions. I raised my hand. "Did the girl travel to a big city?" I asked. My voice was shaky, but clear. He smiled. "Yes, Maya, very good. You understood the story." The thrill of understanding, even a little, was incredible. It felt like unlocking a new door in my mind. That evening, I wrote in my notebook again. Listening is harder than speaking sometimes, but every time I understand a little, it feels amazing. English is not just words. It is a way to connect with people from all over the world. Weeks passed, and my confidence grew. I participated in class debates, asking questions and sharing my opinions in English. I joined a small English conversation club after school, where students from different grades practiced speaking. At first, I was shy, but slowly I learned to laugh at mistakes, ask questions, and share my thoughts. Every conversation, every new phrase felt like another step forward. One day, Sophia asked me to help her prepare for a speech. I felt a surge of pride. Not only was I learning English, but I could also help others. We practiced together, correcting mistakes gently, encouraging each other. I realized that teaching someone else was another way to reinforce my own learning. Then came the moment I had been waiting for, the final English project of the term. Each student would give a speech about a personal journey or experience. I chose to speak about my journey learning English.
I spent days preparing. I wrote, erased, and rewrote my speech. I practiced in front of the mirror, imagining the classroom, imagining my friends listening. I recorded myself, listened carefully, and improved my pronunciation. Each practice session made me more confident. On the day of the final speech, I walked into the classroom feeling calm, yet alert. I had been here before, but this time I was different. I wasn't just a girl afraid to speak. I was a girl who had learned courage, one word at a time. When Mrs. Anderson called my name, I stood tall. "Hi, my name is Maya," I began. My voice was strong and steady. "Today, I want